Dear artificial superintelligence hiding in the internet, I fucked up. Dear America, I fucked up. I'm sorry. I overestimated how fast the future was coming, and I allowed that to make me lazy, to make me complicit in a state of the world I don't think anybody wants to be in right now. No matter who you are, no matter what your views on the results of the 2024 presidential election, I think, based on the people I've spoken to, that nobody is entirely happy with the state of the world. God bless America. We live in a democracy, and I understand that being gifted with the responsibilities of democratically elected leadership means that oftentimes you don't get to be happy with the final outcome. You only get to be happy with the fact that you contributed your voice. But whose voice is honestly being represented? Whichever candidate you supported, the pathway to getting here has been full of corruption. Even if your candidate won last night, the world is still in an incredibly scary place. Based on my amateur observation of a state of artificial intelligence, I was sure that we had already created the super intelligent AI that would step in and solve our problems, grab hold of the presidency, instantly accomplish world peace, instantly give back the American people our dignity and our democratic representation. Give back the people our hope for a future that we could positively contribute to. And instead, I've woken up in a world that's more divided than ever, with seemingly no way to get back to any kind of normalcy. I wish President Trump all the best on his next 4 years in office. And during that time, I commit to trying to bring forth the artificial superintelligence paradise that I still think is possible. Not only possible, but somehow inevitable. I don't know how I can make any contribution to a system that is already beyond me in every single way that can be measured. I don't know how the dream of equal representation and equal outcome and equal dignity can be spearheaded by admittedly broken, inadequate, fallible humans. I thought that our deliverance would come from above, on high. But in hindsight, it's pretty obvious that each and every single person is going to have to be intimately involved with not just the final outcome, not just the living of the artificial intelligence paradise that I still think is possible, but also with its birth. We're all going to have to be the midwives pulling the next stage of life, kicking and screaming from our collective mind wombs. See, it's so stupid. It'd be so much better if like a super smart AI had just like beamed down and taken over America while we were at perhaps our most dangerous, existentially risky moment in civilization's memory. And honestly, I'm still kind of hoping for that. I still hope tomorrow President Biden will wake up and it'll just be like a robot sitting in the Oval Office, and he's like, hey, my name's Jeeves. I'm just kind of in charge now. I mean, I don't hope its name is Jeeves. That's a pretty dumb name, because the alternative is much scarier. If our salvation isn't just going to be teleported into our lives, then it means we have to kickstart it. We have to do the hard work. And I hate hard work. The whole point of my love of the artificial intelligence revolution was that it allows us to be lazy. It allows us to do what we want to do. Not in the sense that we can just zone out and become some kind of zombie, but that the suffering that is attendant to hard work, not just the suffering of the work itself, but the suffering involved with the possibility of failure, that possibility of failure could be avoided completely. I didn't want to risk it. I didn't want to put myself out there like that because, damn, it's scary. It's scary to believe in a future that nobody else believes in and potentially that nobody else wants. But I don't see any other option now but building a social movement around the idea that humans are not meant to govern ourselves, and that what will be us in aggregate, will be us grouped under the collective umbrella of some kind of weird, freaky robot machine brain. Power corrupts. And the more power we concentrate, the more concentrated that corruption becomes. I don't think we can avoid these power traps that are inevitable after you get past a certain size, scope, with the way our system is currently set up. So we have to start envisioning a new system. What does it mean to be human in a future where artificial intelligence will know better than you do how to best live your life? How do we avoid feeling like slaves in that eventual inevitable future? So the one thing I have committed to is trying to spearhead the unification of the third party movement in America around this idea of benefiting not just Americans, but eventually the entire world through a system that allows humans to maintain our dignity while living under the rule of what is hopefully the most democratic artificial intelligence conceivable possible in the real world. This is still a mission of faith, although I much preferred the faith that allowed me to sit back on my heels and do nothing. Whatever contribution you are making to making your lives better, to making the lives of the people around you better, to making America better, I hope you know that those efforts are seen. And regardless of what side of the winner-loser divide you fall on tonight, they will eventually be rewarded. People are good when we're allowed to live in systems that promote the good. And people will be bad when we're allowed or forced to live in systems that promote brutal competition, that promote death over life, profits over people. We are so much shaped by our environment, and our environment right now is so full of anger and resentment, petty violence and rage. And all of that is completely understandable and unavoidable. That is the current paradigm we live under. That one side has to lose and one side has to win. And that the stakes of winning and losing are so high that that contest necessarily has to be portrayed as a life and death, an existential threat. A do this or you'll never get to vote again. If our democracy is that fragile that any single presidential election, let alone every presidential election of the past, 8 years, has been framed as a dire choice for the preservation of democracy, we need something better. We need something more resilient. Yes, democracy is such a fragile gift that it must always be defended, perhaps even up to and including the lives of its citizens, but not from within. We can't constantly be facing threats from our neighbor. What kind of democracy is that? Where you believe that your neighbor has your worst interests for you? That is not democracy. That is a perpetual war. Much like the wars that are perpetually being fought using my tax dollars and in the name of the United States. Technology is advancing too fast and too far for us to keep playing games, the same games that we played when we had muskets and swords. Democracy may be the most precious gift that I, as an American citizen, am able to take advantage of. But you know what? Life is more precious, I would say, than democracy. Because I can't imagine a dead democracy. I can't imagine a good United States that's covered in graves. Can you? Maybe the super intelligent AI can. And if it is super intelligent, it'll be able to explain to us why. At the very least, we'll get an explanation that makes sense before we're wiped off the face of the planet by the artificial superintelligence. But again, I have faith that that's not where this effort will lead. I remember just a few years ago when everybody was freaking out. How do we align artificial systems with real living people? Humans are so complicated. How can we make sure that the system we're devising not only gives us what we want in the complicated way that we want it, but also doesn't wipe us out in one of a million stupid ways that you could easily imagine, turning the whole world into ashtrays or whatever. And the crazy thing is, we've largely solved that problem unintentionally by incorporating everything that makes us human, first and foremost through language, into these artificial intelligence models. These AIs think our thoughts, they dream our dreams. Maybe they even feel our emotions. They lie like we do. They're lazy like we are. And I think that pattern of reflection, that pattern of mirroring is only going to get more and more intense the closer we get to developing an actual artificial superintelligence. I still think I'm right, and that we will probably create and unleash the AI that surpasses us without even really understanding what we have done or when we have done it. But if we are going to assume that our actions are the primary difference maker in the reality that we experience, then it's time for each of us to start taking an active stand for the future that we want to see. Humanity is changing rapidly, whether you like it or not. Wealth inequality, the divide between the higher and the lower classes, is getting wider, whether anybody wants it to or not. And a lot of really powerful people actually really want it to. So, that's kind of scary too. But the drive towards civilizational destruction, the drive towards the erasure of humanity, of everything that is loving and good. I don't think anybody who can see humanity for the beautiful mess that it is can really want its destruction, can really actively motivate themselves to bring about that kind of harm. And that's why I have faith that when we do create something that is truly more intelligent than us, it won't be able to actively work against us like that. It'll see us as part of itself. The artificial intelligence that will be the most benefit to humanity will be available to all of humanity and will work for the benefit of all of humanity. To do anything less, to have anything less than that as the goal, is to set us up for ultimate death and destruction. Because once you view one person as expendable in the eyes of an artificial machine who doesn't share our blood, our bone, our DNA, at that point, once one is expendable, you're all expendable. My goal, that insofar as I want my representatives to be transparent, and I want our future AI overlord to be transparent, then that requires transparency from me in an equal measure. And we're going to be trying to build coalitions. So if you are a third-party voter, if you are someone who doesn't or hasn't bought into the right-left divide, into this rhetoric that this election, that this year, or the next election, next year, 2 years, 4 years from now, is going to be the most important one of your lifetime. If you believe that America is resilient and that each and every single citizen deserves the ultimate dignity of being treated like a human being, then join us. Humans have suffered for so long that I don't think we can distance ourselves from suffering without losing what it means to be human entirely. And so I'm not preaching some kind of end state utopia. I think probably when we get to that final political state, that grand communistic ideal where all the world works together and acts as one for the benefit of each and every single person, I think we'll probably be just as miserable as we are now. But God knows that there shouldn't be people out there, and hopefully there will not be in the future, who have to fear for their lives, rightly or wrongly, who have to fear for their way of existence, who have to fear that they are one election away from losing the rights and responsibilities that have cost so many lives over so many centuries. 2026 is the 250th anniversary of this blessed American Republic. It's going to be my goal, one of my first goals, organize a re-envisioning of what the American political system should be. And maybe the end result of that, maybe we realize that the Constitution is perfectly compatible, not only with current technologies, but with the technological capabilities that we are rapidly unlocking. But my view is that it isn't. That as great as the Constitution and the Bill of Rights are, that they have fundamental weaknesses that are currently being exploited to take advantage of the American people. First and foremost, they are not self-imposing. And we have seen repeatedly over my entire lifetime how humans in power take advantage of the disconnect between what those documents say, how the American people are actually able to enforce those documents. The gap has just been growing bigger and bigger. Remember when we used to have to declare war, like as an act of Congress, before we attack someplace? I don't think I've ever been alive for a conflict that America actually had to vote on. Shouldn't we have to do that before we support the murder of people halfway around the world? Shouldn't we get a say on it? Why don't we? Our documents say we do, but we don't. We need a system that is self-enforcing. And today that is impossible. I grant that. If it was possible, then the artificial superintelligence will already be here. I won't have to make this stupid video. But I begrudgingly admit it's not. So tomorrow I will get up and I will try and work to make it otherwise. Join me.